Hey guys, City State Studios here. Today we'll be taking a look at the Led Zeppelin Iceberg you can currently see on your screens right about here. This iceberg will be split up into 3 parts with 2 tiers per video. At this point, I assume we're all familiar with what an iceberg meme is, so with that said, let's just jump right into the video at the lemon tier. Right off the bat, we have perhaps the most well-known Led Zeppelin song, the one that many consider to be the band's magnum opus, Stairway to Heaven. Despite the song still being popular to this very day, Robert Plant has said that over time he got sick of singing it and has only rarely sung it since the band's breakup in 1980. The song is 8.5 minutes long on the album Led Zeppelin 4, where it is the last song on the A side of the album, but when it was performed live, it gradually got longer and longer due to Jimmy Page's guitar solo being extended. The longest version is clocking in over 13 whole minutes. Despite Robert Plant being sick of the song, Jimmy Page still apparently enjoys it, as he often played an instrumental version of it during his various solo performances in the 1980s, including the Outrider tour in 1988, where it served as the final song in the setlist. This refers to the band's first live album and live concert film, and the only one ever released during their time as an active band. You see, Peter Grant, the manager of Led Zeppelin, was hesitant to release a live album because he feared that if the band did, they would lose out on ticket sales. Even so, fan demand for a live album eventually became so great that he caved in, and 3 nights at Madison Square Garden in New York City were filmed and recorded, being edited down to a single coherent show. Even though the album was recorded in 1973, it would not be until 1976 that it was released, over 3 years later. The name is taken from the very first song in the band's 1973 album, Houses of the Holy, which is the album being promoted by the band's 1973 shows. After its theatrical release, it often saw repeats on late-night television throughout the 1970s and 1980s, leading to the misconception that the band performed the concert specifically for television, when in reality, the band stopped making TV appearances several years prior due to the belief that they were not a good representation of their live sound and image. This refers to a line in the Lemon song off the album Led Zeppelin 2. The line is a rather clever sex reference, with Robert Plant singing, "Squeeze my lemon till the juice runs down my leg." It shouldn't take a genius for anyone who knows what sex is to realize what exactly he's referring to in that sentence. Strangely enough, the Lemon song is actually based off another song called Killing Floor, originally written and sung by Howlin' Wolf, an American blues rock musician. Led Zeppelin performed the original version of Killing Floor in 1968 before they reworked the song into the Lemon song. The aforementioned lyrics about lemons came from a different song known as Traveling Riverside Blues by Robert Johnson, which may have in turn been borrowed from yet another song called She Squeezed My Lemon by Arthur McKay. In December 1972, Arc Music, owner of the publishing rights to Howlin' Wolf songs, sued Led Zeppelin for copyright infringement on the Lemon song. Both parties ultimately settled out of court. Though the amount was not disclosed, Howlin' Wolf himself received a check for $45,123 from Arc Music immediately following the suit, or about $293,295 today, and subsequent releases of Led Zeppelin 2 included a co-songwriter credit for him that remains to this day. This track off the band's second album, Led Zeppelin 2, was the band's breakout hit. It would end up being their highest charting single in the US, peaking at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1969 and hitting number 1 in several other countries. The UK, however, was not one of them. This is because Led Zeppelin refused to issue singles in their home country, opting to only release albums. The reason for this was reportedly because Jimmy Page was sick of having to write singles for the Yardbirds, his previous band, as well as the fact that in Peter Grant's mind, the band would make more money if fans had to purchase a whole album to hear their favorite songs. Singles, however, were issued in other countries, and usually performed well on the charts. In fact, there actually were plans to issue the song as a single in the UK, and copies were even pressed. However, Peter Grant canceled the release at the last minute when he and the band found out the song was going to be edited down for the British single release, which had not happened anywhere else the single was issued. As with the Lemon song, a legal controversy ensued over the songwriting credits. In this case, parts of the song were adapted from Willie Dixon's You Need Love, recorded by Muddy Waters in 1962. A lawsuit in 1985 was settled with a payment to Dixon and credit on subsequent releases of Led Zeppelin 2 and the Whole Lotta Love single. Unfortunately, no Led Zeppelin Iceberg will be complete without mentioning the tragic death of John Bonham, the band's drummer. In September of 1980, shortly after rehearsing for a planned tour of the US, John was found dead in his home by bassist John Paul Jones after he had vomited in his sleep. He had been battling alcoholism for a while, and it's believed he drank an inordinate amount of alcohol before going to bed. His death devastated the band, and they immediately canceled the planned American tour, which would have been their first in the US since 1977. Initially, rumors circulated that Led Zeppelin will hire a new drummer, with comparisons made to how The Who carried on after the eerily similar death of their drummer Keith Moon. However, these rumors were put to rest when the band announced later that they would break up, thinking that they could not continue as Led Zeppelin without John Bonham. John Lennon's murder later in 1980 would be another sign of the end of an era for rock music, and another tragic blow to music as a whole. All three remaining members, however, did not quit making music, with all three either starting highly successful solo projects or joining other bands. Additionally, they have reunited 4 times: 1985 for Live Aid, 1988 for the 40th anniversary of Atlantic Records, 1995 for their induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and 2007 for the Ahmet Ertegun tribute concert. John's son, Jason Bonham, would become a highly accomplished drummer himself, and would play with Led Zeppelin and its individual members during their solo projects at various times. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get to the Thor Ragnarok tier. Thor Ragnarok is a 2017 action superhero film directed by Taika Waititi. It is the 17th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the sequel to Thor and Thor: The Dark World. This film is infamous among Led Zeppelin fans for its use of Immigrant Song, which led to the song skyrocketing in popularity. Immigrant Song, featured in the album Led Zeppelin 3, was released in 1970 and was written by Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. Like Whole Lotta Love, it was a hit single outside of the UK, peaking at 16 on the Billboard Hot 100 and charting in the top 10 in many other countries. The song was performed live for only 2 years, however, with the band ceasing to perform it on stage in 1972 due to the increasing difficulty Robert Plant had singing it. For most of its lifetime on stage, the song was performed as the first song in the set, though towards the end it got moved closer to the end of concerts. Robert Plant notoriously did not warm his voice up a lot before concerts. Given how difficult the song is to sing, his lack of warm-up before jumping right into this difficult song likely contributed to his vocal decline over the years.
From the midnight sun and a the hammer of the gods will drive our ships to new land, fight the horn and sing and cry, Valhalla I am coming, always we will, let's sing around. I only go with me to Western John.
The BBC Sessions is a live album of the band released in 1997. It is notable for being the first official live release by the band since the song remains the same some 21 years prior. The band released these recordings to officially counteract the massive amount of bootlegs of these concerts for the BBC that were released throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Despite this release being welcomed among fans, some criticized the decision to edit some of the songs and drop others that were recorded for the BBC. Most notable of these edits are one session from 1969, which included the unreleased song Sunshine Woman and about 7 minutes of the Whole Lotta Love medley from 1971. However, much of their concerns were alleviated when the album was re-released in September 2016 as the complete BBC Sessions with further BBC recordings, including the Sunshine Woman session. Tragically, the master tape of the Sunshine Woman session was lost due to BBC's old policy of wiping tapes to get more storage space, but thankfully, the band was able to use a bootleg recording of an AM broadcast, so while it is not in the best quality, we can still enjoy a great performance of this unheard song that the band never got around to putting on any of their albums or single releases. So this stems from the actual title of Led Zeppelin 4. Unlike the band's first 3 albums, Led Zeppelin 4 came with no title and no artwork of the band on the front cover. Officially to this day, the album actually has no title at all. Despite this, almost all people refer to it as Led Zeppelin 4 to coincide with the naming convention of the first 3 albums. This refers to a famous ad-lib of Robert Plant's during many live performances of Stairway to Heaven after the line, "And the forests will echo with laughter."
And the forests will echo with laughter. Does anybody remember laughter?
To this day, many fans still shout this during covers of Stairway to Heaven, and many bootleg recordings of Jimmy Page's Outrider tour in 1988 feature fans shouting the famous ad-lib while he performed an instrumental version of the song at the end of each of the concerts on the tour, which would be his only large-scale tour as a solo artist. In December of 2006, Ahmet Ertegun, a Turkish-American businessman, songwriter, and philanthropist who was a co-founder and president of Atlantic Records, passed away at the age of 83. Led Zeppelin, who were originally signed to Atlantic Records before creating their own label, Swan Song Records, in 1974, before the release of their double album Physical Graffiti in 1975, paid tribute to him, and the band reunited and held a concert in his memory in 2007. Originally scheduled for November of 2007, the show was postponed to December after Jimmy Page fractured his pinky finger. The website used to buy tickets to use a lottery system, which is more commonly used in Japan for concerts rather than in the West, and it exceeded his bandwidth allowance and crashed almost immediately following the announcement for the show, the promoter predicting that the gig would cause the largest demand for one show in history. Indeed, the promoter claimed that 1 million people registered for fewer than 20,000 available tickets. This concert would be the only full-length show Led Zeppelin has ever done since 1980. Many songs had their keys lowered to accommodate Robert Plant's changed voice, but this did not stop the band from giving a great performance. The band will play 16 songs in total, 2 of which had never been heard in full on stage before: Ramble On from Led Zeppelin 2 and For Your Life from Presence. The concert was later released officially as Celebration Day, as both a live album and a concert film, and various bootleg recordings exist from the audience. Greta Van Fleet is an American hard rock and blues rock band from Michigan, currently consisting of the 3 Kizga brothers, Jake, Sam, and Josh, as well as Danny Wagner. They have attained a lot of fans for their throwback sound, but also a lot of critics who try to accuse them of copying Led Zeppelin. The band has admitted that Led Zeppelin is among their inspirations, but has pushed back on the idea that they stole songs from them. According to the band, they did not pay much attention to Led Zeppelin until they were in high school. Now, this is just my opinion, but I think Greta Van Fleet is actually pretty good. I may get some flack for it, but I don't care. I stand by it. I genuinely enjoyed both their albums, so I do heavily prefer their second album, The Battle at Garden's Gate, over their first, Anthem of the Peaceful Army. In fact, Robert Plant has actually complimented the band, comparing their sound to the sound from Led Zeppelin and describing Josh Kizga as a beautiful little singer. Josh himself has stated he is not intending to go for a sound like Robert Plant, and that came about by accident one day while he was trying to be heard over an early form of the band. Now, one interesting tidbit is that there is a video of a very early form of Greta Van Fleet performing Stairway to Heaven up on YouTube. Obviously, it's not the best given that they were all like 15 at the time, but it's definitely not terrible either. Anyways, that's it for the first 2 tiers of the Led Zeppelin Iceberg. Hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did, and stay tuned for part 2, where we'll cover the Presence and Monty Python tiers. Thank you, and have a good day.